There's a lot of things you can say about Nintendo, but you cannot deny that the company has some of the wisest and most creatively driven game developers in the entire industry. They just have this like philosophy to game making that I think so much of the industry could learn more from and apply. And among the most well-known names at Nintendo is Masahiro Sakurai, who is the developer of Super Smash Bros., the creator and the lead on Super Smash Bros. And recently he released this video titled Targeting and Market Research that discusses its efficacy and or its downfalls. And I think this is a video that a lot of AAA publishers and those chasing trends and live services and those who are kind of aiming to replicate other developers' successes should watch, because I think he absolutely nailed it on the head here discussing this particular topic. And there's a level of wisdom here and a level of caring about innovating when it comes to making games that I think is just really respectable. So this is a 4-minute long video that I kind of want to check out with you guys so I can show you what he said and what the industry could learn from this. So here we go. Also, I love this channel. Masahiro Sakurai on creating games. A lot of great knowledge.
主に年齢と性別あるいは思考などで区分されます。同じようにソフトがどの層に支持されているのかマーケティングによって緻密に綿密にデータ化されています。任天堂の作品においても驚くほど細かいデータが得られてますね。つまり支持が厚いターゲット層がある。そして
Market research is not unimportant.
あるいは弱い層を補って商品を売るのがターゲティング。
But over relying on it can lead to a lack of innovation. Sort of that eventually becomes the point, and you'll see in a minute.
でもな、ターゲティングやマーケティングをすることにはもちろん異論はないのだけど、個人的には真面目に考えても仕方があるまいと思っています。もちろんそれが非常に有効な業界もありますが、特にゲームの企画を新しく考えようという場合、真面目に捉えないことをお勧めします。ターゲティングやマーケティングっていうのは既存のものから想定するデータです。これからの道を示してくれるわけではありません。
That's right.
ユーザーの境界線はとても曖昧です。可愛いものが好きな高齢者だっているし、ハードな表現を好む子供もいます。決してどこかで線引きできるものではありません。
All right, so I'm going to pause real quick and talk about some of what he said. He said we shouldn't rely on market research too much because it ultimately just talks about or presents data on existing ideas. And if you base your game development on those existing ideas and what market research says about those, instead of kind of treading new ground and walking on uncharted territory that could essentially kind of lead to new market research that could highlight the success of something that others didn't think about, you're not innovating. You're just trying to chase the shadow of something. You're trying to be the success of something that already exists. And that's what we see a lot of companies doing right now. And sometimes it works and, you know, they make a lot of money off of a genre that suddenly became popular. But those genres slowly become more and more saturated. And market research will tell you, well, if you make a certain type of hero shooter, a certain type of battle royale, a certain type of shooter, whatever, a certain type of live service, then the potential of making money is tremendous. But if you're not there first, if you don't stand out from the pack, if you just chase trends and you are pretty, you know, not awful, but overall substandard at everything you do, and it's just essentially a different aesthetic for something that already exists that has had more time to flesh itself out, to become more feature complete, and you're coming in trying to compete with those guys, your game's most likely to fail. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening with Concord, which is this hero shooter that is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just so unimaginative in terms of innovation. It came in too late. It doesn't do, aside from like, you know, the heroes and the aesthetic and all that being its own unique thing, the overall game format, what you're playing is essentially a less feature complete version of something like Overwatch. You think about all of the live services that have shut down recently, and it's all a result of either the quality not being high enough or the concept not being exhilarating and innovative enough, or it's a matter of them just trying to replicate something that already exists, and people going, why would I want to play this new thing when we've already got the better version of it? And sometimes you know, certain developers add a twist to the genre that makes it compelling enough where it draws attention, and stuff like that can happen. But generally, this kind of trend chasing leads to a certain downfall that comes from the over-reliance on what market research says about what can make you the most money. You know, what's the thing that will appeal to a massive audience? But to approach it from that perspective, that's just a flawed way to, you know, try to innovate. You know, when you think about some of the best games ever made and some of the most successful games ever made, they didn't come into it with a perspective of what does the market research say. They came into it with a perspective of what's fun for us. What do we want to make? What do we want to say with our video game? And what are we trying to do that to make an experience that's new and unique and fun, and then let that sell itself instead of relying on trying to replicate a success, you know, using data or whatever. Just like if you speak from the heart and appeal to people's hearts in terms of what they know to be fun and what kind of experiences they perceive as compelling, based on, you know, just the kind of game that these developers make that they themselves would want to play and hope that other people resonate with, then that's when you get, you know, some of the biggest successes. And then he also delves into targeting specific age groups and specific whatever. And the way he talks about how those lines can be blurry, I think is really great. Look, SpongeBob SquarePants, you look at that show and it looks like it's for kids, but guess what? A lot of adults still like SpongeBob SquarePants. Just because something looks cutesy and, you know, looks like it might be for kids doesn't mean it specifically appeals to kids. And in equal measure, just because something is darker and grittier doesn't mean it won't appeal to a younger audience. You know, like I'm sure if you look at the audience base of something like, I don't know, Elden Ring or Baldur's Gate 3, yeah, sure, a lot of those are adults, but there are probably a lot of younger folks too, who, you know, play those games and partake in them and are discovering, you know, just a new experience that they really enjoy. And you know, plenty of people who you think these kinds of games won't appeal to are probably playing these games because word of mouth spread about just how great they are, what an enthralling and just unique experience that only that development studio could make, they offer. And so let's continue watching this video.
子供もいます。決してどこかで線引きできるものではありません。例えば初代星のカービィは初心者層に向けているゲームですが、私が子供向けなどといったことはありません。初心者には当然のように大人も子供も男も女も含まれます。
Very true.
強いて言うならターゲティングは初心者ということになります。年齢ではないですね。ただ初心者向けといえどそれなりの手応えがあるし、上級者が操作感を楽しむために遊ぶこともあると思います。一言ではくれない。またマーケティング
So, yeah, I think that's a really great way to put it. You look at a FromSoft game that's designed for more experienced gamers, you know, people who are, you know, more comfortable with just more complex inputs and concepts in gaming, and tons of people bought games like Elden Ring and, you know, the Souls games and whatnot, because there are a lot of people now who have played enough games that they're able to kind of seek a greater challenge. But, you know, if I wanted a game that appeals, you know, to both, someone like me who's more experienced with games, but also someone who hasn't played games as much and just needs simpler inputs. That's how I think that's where Nintendo gets that magic sauce. If when you look at the likes of Mario Party and even games like Splatoon, which took the shooter concept and made it a bit more accessible, or Mario Kart even, and how many people play that game who normally don't play a lot of video games, or hell, even Super Smash Brothers. That's one of those games where, like, if I booted up Tekken, only a certain crowd, a niche crowd of, or not niche, but like a crowd of like people who've like really mastered that game, or at least partaken in it enough to be able to be competent, would play that game. Super Smash Brothers simplifies the controls and the inputs enough where you can kind of get away with not being an expert in fighting games, but still do stuff. But there's still room for a gap in expertise. That there's a huge skill gap between, people who have mastered Smash Brothers and those who just kind of engage in the basic moves. So it appeals to those who are beginners, but also experts. And it's this great kind of accessible kind of a game. But not everything has to be that. Tekken 8 is its own thing, and it appeals to that particular crowd. So designing games in the perspective of like, how broad of an appeal do you want it to have based on its difficulty requirements, and then instead of over-relying on market research and just ultimately going, what kind of game do we want to make that's just like really cool and unique, that doesn't follow and chase trends, that's just like this idea that somebody had that makes you go, ooh, that's interesting. Nobody's tried that. Let's go for it. That's when you get those magic sauce games that go on to become landmarks in the history of gaming. Let's watch further. I love this video. It's 4 minutes long, but it has so much insight. There's a lot said in few words.
また、マーケティングはすでに完成しているものに対するデータです。
Yes, correct.
誰かが通った道を事細かに分析する。
That's exactly right. Chasing trends.
新しい道を切り開くという要素はないわけで。
Nothing that's innovative.
大通り。
That's right.
より多く通ったところは分かるわけだから。だけど、それを追い続けるとだんだん平凡平均的なものになっていって。
More average and mediocre, and that sells less. And then right here we have a segment where Sakurai basically highlights the issue of oversaturation and how when everyone starts chasing the same trend, that whole trend starts to die. It just starts to become too much, and the lack of innovation makes that trend eventually start to become boring and harder for new titles in that particular trend or who are chasing that trend to succeed.
スーパーファミコン時代、日本ではドラクエや FF っぽい作品が山ほど出ました。マーケティングとしては RPG が売れている。
The market research said follow the RPG trend, but then everyone started following this path. All those games dove in an oversaturated market.
マーケティングは過去のもの。どちらも何か新しいことをしようというふうにするときには邪魔になりかねないので、話半分程度にするのが良いのではないでしょうか。
I like it's so beautifully said.
斬新なことをしようという人たちはいつでも孤独です。誰も通ったことがない道を切り開いているわけだから。しかし
That's right, and everyone's like, I don't get it because they haven't done this before, they haven't seen this before.
ことをしなければ広がらないし、先駆者が後に続く人たちの指標になったりします。ビジネスとして必要なこともそれが当てはまらない場合がある。
The needs of a business won't lead to that. The needs of a business.
の方も含めて心がけてもらえれば幸いです。
Just so many great quotes and nuggets of wisdom in this video that I'm like, I have to talk about this because this feels like somebody took a very simple concept of, this is how we should approach things creatively and made it very palatable and made it very informative and said exactly what I think a lot of people are basically thinking, but just put in better words. But yeah, the basic of it is in this one frame. Targeting is not so reliable, and market research is just analyzing the past, not blazing a new road towards something that has yet to be discovered. That bit where Sakurai talked about how it is lonely to be on a path to innovation, to be the one to kind of try to come up with new ideas, resonates in a way that I think Kojima would really understand, because he's someone who's constantly said what a lonely road it is for him as a game designer, because he always comes up with these ideas and concepts that make people go, what, bro? And, you know, he say what you want about Kojima games, but he's someone who's always thinking of like weird shit nobody would ever dream of greenlighting. You know what I mean? He just made a AAA delivery man game in the form of Death Stranding. And yeah, I mean, I know it may not necessarily be for everyone, but like what he made with that game and the whole, you know, strand system and whatever, took Dark Souls and Soulsborne's like messaging system and expanded it in a way where it's like you're not encountering people's messages, but people's structures and all the different things that people put down that helps you in your journey, and how when you connect, all of that stuff populates the world. It's such a cool idea that, you know, when you like try to pitch this, the likes of, you know, all your usual AAA publishers that go the safe path, who do the market research and follow the market research path, would probably not ever greenlight something like that, or even conceive or try to make the attempt of conceiving something like that. And so, you know, I imagine that during the development of Death Stranding, Kojima got a lot of like, I'm not sure, man. Like, I don't see it. I don't see the vision here. But Kojima, deep down, he knew what he was making. And it wasn't about targeting a specific audience. It wasn't about doing what market research indicated would see the best results. Kojima just like had this fucking thing he wanted to make. He had this feeling about this concept, and he just executed on it. And he made something just really unique and interesting. It's not the best-selling game ever, you know, but it still sold well because it was a Kojima game, and it was crazy enough to draw people's attention, to make them go, what the hell is this? Like to pique their curiosity. And for those who played it and enjoyed it, they had a pretty like interesting and, you know, transformative experience where it made them go like, I didn't think about a game that could kind of approach the interactive nature of this medium in this way. And so, yeah, I don't know. This topic just I felt really passionate about and felt the need to kind of put out there because Sakurai just like, it was like almost like an itch that he scratched for me when he just put it in such precise and wise words what I've been feeling about certain aspects of the games industry that feel so stale and so just lacking in that like drive for creative innovation, you know? But that, ladies and gentlemen, is one man's take. Let me know what you think about what Masahiro Sakurai had to say about how you shouldn't lean so heavily on, you know, what research says about targeting and what market research says about the path that you should walk on. Instead, forge your own path. I think it's the wisest words you could give to any creative, anyone who is an artist. That's my take. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.